Welcome to GlobaLink. Our mission is to provide immigrants with the resources they need to feel secure in the U.S. with a priority on finding employment and navigating the visa process. We offer a connective experience that seamlessly pairs immigrants seeking mentorship with seasoned mentors. Our idea was to help the immigration space because for many immigrants, when they come over to the United States, they lack a support system of family or friends and can find it very difficult to adjust to cultural and professional differences. This might look like a difficulty getting a job because English might be their second language and they might not know all of the opportunities available to them for networking. And it might also look like, a difficulty renting an apartment or buying a car or finding a guarantor because you might be an international student whose parents live halfway across the world. So our goal was to connect immigrants who just come to the US with more established immigrants who've immigrated and settled here so that they could get an idea of what the immigration process feels like and ask for general advice and find community support. So I can hit Find a Mentor, and it'll take me to this Create a Mentee profile. Here I'm able to create an account, and I'll enter my personal information. And for the purposes of this demonstration, obviously this isn't me. I'll be pretending like, let's say I'm an immigrant from Venezuela. So I might say like my country of origin, and then what languages I might speak. We have our native language in addition to a secondary or third language. The idea is that for many immigrants, they're fluent or speak many languages. So we want to be able to reflect, finding them other mentors who also speak their language. We might have our education. So I could say master's student in computer science. The industry that they'd like to work in, I might say software, and then like my current location. And then I'll add a little description, and I can create a profile. So all of this personal information is going to be used to create essentially what's a mentee object. And we'll talk about this more when we talk about our tech stack, but the important thing to note is that pay attention to how we have a field for country of origin, languages, industry, and location. We're able to use essentially those attributes to match mentees with the best mentors possible. So I'll hit Create Profile, and then I'll get a list of mentor recommendations. So I might get recommended somebody like Sophia because even though I'm from Venezuela and she's from Colombia, she speaks fluent Spanish and English, and she's in Atlanta and she works as a project manager at Microsoft. So the matching algorithm might detect that there's a lot of similarities there. That might be a strong professional connection. But it's not just for professional connections. It could also be for immigrant community support, especially with things like visa immigration issues. So I might also get recommended a mentor like Carlos, who is from Mexico and also speaks, fluent Spanish and English, and is also in Atlanta, but who specializes in maybe not, a technical role, but in visa issues, networking, and adjusting to U.S. culture. In this way, I'm able to find mentors depending on my need, whether I want to find a professional-based mentor or seek advice from an immigrant who's from my home country who might be able to help me with a specific visa from my home country. Once you find a mentor that you like, you can create a chat with them. And obviously we didn't have time to fully implement this, but the idea is that you'll be able to create a chat with a mentor that you like and set up a conversation with them and meet them and just ask them generally for advice, similar to messaging functions on most other apps. As for our tech stack, for our front end, we used React with Bootstrap to build all of our pages. We connected it to a Flask backend. And in our backend, we're also connecting that to a MongoDB database. And we use the PyMongo library with Flask to send mentor objects and mentee objects to that database. So as I talked about before, when I was creating my profile, that might get created as a mentee object with the attributes industry, tech. Languages might be an array of like English, Spanish, and French. Location would be like Atlanta, Georgia. And when we want to match them with a list of mentors, we'll have a matching algorithm that'll try to match as many of those similar attributes as possible. In the future, with more complex matching algorithms, we might have the user input what type of mentor they want to find, instead of just having a base weight. So like let's say the mentee is looking for specifically professional relationships, they might input, we might attach a higher weight to that to industry in our matching algorithm. But again, that's feature pending. So that was one matching algorithm we made. The other matching algorithm that we didn't get to fully finish, but we did spend a lot of time on and want to emphasize the future integration of, was our AI matching algorithm. So we're basically able to, since we're using Flask in our backend, once we essentially create our mentee and send them over to our database, we can also use Python to just write that possible mentee to a file, and then a list of mentors that they might be matched with. And then here we have a little program using Cloudflare AI that is going to simply prompt the Cloudflare AI to say, we have a client, here are some mentors, rank which mentors would best match the client, and then I can access my request. And here we can see that our AI ranking will spit out a list of the best mentors. I do want to emphasize that this generation is not static. So this is actually depends on whatever you pass in for your mentee and mentor. So obviously, depending on whatever attributes you pass in when you create your mentee profile, you'll get matched with different mentors. And we'll have a file, obviously, to parse this to return that back to our front end in a ranking of the best mentors. But the reason we really like the AI matching algorithm, even though we didn't get to fully implement it with our stack, was because it allows for a much easier scale in the future. So let's say I have that description field in my profile. Instead of me having to manually find a way to parse what weight I want to assign to each category, I can just say, in my prompt, the mentee wants to find professional relationships or wants to find immigrants specifically from their own country. And that allows us to really easily fetch the best match as determined by Cloudflare's AI to then return to the user. And that's GlobaLink. Thank you so much.